I was impressed, Jacqueline, by the work that the EPA has done mapping roadless areas, and it's quite exciting to see sort of independent initiatives, and we would love to take you up on your offer to try to collaborate, put them together, and see if together we can create a roadless area map of the world that is the best possible map. So yes, I think it's an honor to be invited to participate in this. We're not the scientists, we're not the governments, the policymakers, we're not civil society. But one thing we know about is mapping roads. Many of you probably know Google Maps. Millions and millions and millions of kilometers of the world's countries mapped in Google Maps. More than 1 billion people use Google Maps every month to find their way from point A to point B. So we've thought a lot about where the roads are, but we've never thought before about where the roads aren't. So when Kriton came to us last December and said, would you think about making a map of where the roads aren't, using your map of where they are, we were definitely intrigued. And be careful what you ask us to do, because if it's a cool project and it helps the world, we're gonna work on it. So we started by, as I said, looking at where the roads are. And let me see if we can get this working here. Is the now. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just going to give you an example from Australia and bring up sort of what you can think of as an X-ray of the road data that's in Google Maps for Australia. You can see that, Perth, Melbourne, Adelaide, Sydney, very dense road networks. But in the center, in the interior, in the outback, it's more sparse. So what we did is we took that data and we brought all those millions and millions of kilometers of road data into our new geospatial analytic platform called Google Earth Engine. And we actually, we didn't do it by hours of walking. I think that's a very interesting metric. But we wanted to start with something simple. We did 2 buffers. We did a 10-kilometer buffer from roads, and we did a 1-kilometer buffer from roads. And I will show you both of those. We have a tremendous amount of attribute or metadata information about roads. So one thing we've talked about is in the next phase, doing something more refined. You might treat a dirt road differently from a superhighway and so on. But for the purpose of today, we have a simple example. Let's start with 10 kilometers. So here you can see the Amazon. And the white are where the roads are. Now, Jacqueline used red. We used green just because we thought roadless areas are good. It may be forest, it may be tundra, it may be desert, but if it's roadless, we're coloring it green. And the darker the green is, the deeper it is, the farther away it is from a road. Obviously, you can see the Amazon. We're going to come back here a little later. Here it is with 1-kilometer roads. And actually, I would love to just divert for a second, because Kriton showed this one area that is just so terrible in the Amazon. And in fact, Kriton, we're working with this tribe right now because these indigenous tribes are the front lines to stop deforestation. So let's just, out of curiosity, look, right? You can see where the road network is. So we're going to take sort of a guided tour around the world with 10-kilometer buffers. Obviously, Sahara, you can see areas of Congo. And again, if we switch to 1 kilometer, the good news is 1 kilometer away, there are a lot more roadless areas. So it really depends on how you want to define roadless. And it may vary where you are in the world, how you want to define that. Let's see, where was I? heading east. You can see, for example, the Great Tibetan Plateau. You can see the boreal forest of Russia. And even India, while it has a lot of roads, there are a lot of green areas. We will go in close, but first I wanted to give you sort of a global tour. I showed you that map of Australia with the roads, and here it is now, the roadless areas. So there is actually still some outback. All right, can someone stand? Now we'll go to Borneo, which is home to some of the most unique and endangered species in the world. And you can see again the roads around the perimeter, but the center is still deeply roadless. This is again 1 kilometer. It looks pretty good, but if we switch it back to 10 kilometer, you can see that, I guess this is Japan, China, and so on. If you have a stricter standard, 10 kilometers, there are very few roadless areas. Come back to where I live, the US. Again, if you have that stricter 10-kilometer standard, we're not doing very well in the US. Up in Alaska, yes, but not in the continental. But if we go to 1 kilometer, it's not too bad, especially in the western US. Going here now to Central America, you can actually see what's called the Mesoamerican Biological Corridor. There's sort of a green strip that goes all the way down through Honduras, Panama, Costa Rica. This is very, very important from a conservation perspective because animals migrate along that corridor. Alaska was interesting to me. This is Anchorage, this is Fairbanks. All of these little dots are villages where you can get by plane, and there are some roads there, but you often can only get there by plane. So that's a question, I guess, for the policymakers to think about is if you have death by 1,000 cuts of tiny villages, is that okay? I don't know. So we'll go back to the Amazon and we're going to look at some of those. This is, the reason these exist is because they are towns along the Amazon River. There are no roads that go to them. You can only get there by river. When I first, when we first produced this product and I saw these dots, I thought, is it a bug in our software, or or is this real? But it is actually real. We're going to go in now and look at one of these. So I'm actually going to turn this off so that you can see. This is the village of and there are the roads. We turn this back on. There's that white that we found, right? That little patch of roads in the middle of the Amazon. All right, I think I have just a few more spots left. Yeah. Because Kriton is from Greece, I thought he would want to know there are a few green roadless areas left if we take the more relaxed 1 kilometer standard. And in particular, I was curious about Mount Olympus, legendary Mount Olympus. And yes, You have protected Mount Olympus. If we turn off the, right, there it is. But you can see these little roads are coming in up the flanks of Mount Olympus, so you need to keep an eye on that, okay? All right, it's a deal, okay. I think we'll end by, let's see, here we go. We'll end by going to Madagascar, which is, my understanding is sort of legendary in the conservation community because there are so many species, unique species, endemic to Madagascar that live nowhere else. And you can see that, and actually if I do the 10-kilometer version, that their homes are disappearing, right, as development happens on the island. And what are some of these species? Well, this is actually a KML layer created, it's called EDGE, Evolutionarily Distinct and Globally Endangered Species. So these are some of the remarkable animals that have been found literally on those spots where they're marked on the map. These are lemurs. I never knew there were so many lemurs. The Indri. And for example, however, it's still threatened by habitat loss due to logging and slash and burn agriculture. That's what we're seeing with these roads that are encroaching upon their habitat. So we all have a role that we can play, I think, and you know, at Google, and I'll just close with a Google Maps view of the roadless areas. We stand ready to work with you and you know, European Environment Agency and anyone who wants to participate in mapping these roadless areas according to whatever are the most appropriate policy and scientific criteria, and you know, helping to protect them. Thank you very much.